I think there's some givens, right? That I think every company needs to have as their, as table stakes, right? Trust, authenticity, innovation. Those things to me are table stakes, and they have to be alive and well inside an organization for them to even be, to be able to survive in this climate. The feeling that we want is, on top of those things, is really about enthusiasm and excitement, and that there's a little bit of nurturing involved. And so we're going to bring always our best foot forward in terms of like putting our ego aside, and this not being about us, but this is about you, the client, really comes from like a very egoless, nurturing, caregiving aspect, along with the energetic vibe that comes along when you are winning and have the momentum.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to look at how great work leads to more work. Now, this is going to be a fun episode because we're going to talk about how do you create a culture where people perform at their best and you can lead people to a higher level. Well, our special guest today is co-founder, CEO of Tiny Wins. They've made the Inc. list before, and we're with Lillian Marsh. And Lillian and I talk about some of the mottos that really drive their business, specifically the one that says, great work leads to more work. And that really describes how they look at serving clients and really making an impact and ROI and doing the work that they do in branding and in marketing. It is something that's actually very unique out there because they actually pride themselves on getting results. I know every marketing company says that, but the reason why they're able to do this over and over and over, Lillian describes inside this interview, is because people know that they've got to do the great work. They've got to really make an impact with their clients, and they're going to do it day in and day out and keep pushing and innovating until they do. Now, all that is described inside today's interview with Lillian. If you're asking yourself, who is this? Why am I listening to this podcast? It's probably because you're either a fast growth company or you want to be a fast growth company, or you're looking to tame some of the chaos that's going on inside of the growth of your organization. Now, you as a leader have to continue to evolve. The culture evolves as you hit certain inflection points, which we will talk about a little bit today. But you also want to make sure that you are growing in all capacity of your ability to lead. I'm an executive coach, been doing this for about 12 years. We have leadership development inside of our organization where we turn managers into leaders. And if any of those are curious to you and you want to know how we could help and serve you, your next best step is to join us in a conversation with other CEOs. I know that sounds odd, but every once in a month, we get together and we talk about a topic. This next one coming up is how to hire rock stars or superstars, if you will. And you want to know what we know about hiring because we have actually helped a lot of companies that were struggling with this in this area. And we're going to share with you some of those ways for you to do it, but you're also going to hear from other CEOs of fast growth companies. You can share some of the things that are working for you. If you feel like you want to join this conversation, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversation and see if the next one coming up fits your schedule and really is something that you want to make work for you. We love doing these. We really feel like they're world class. It's only a handful of people coming to them, so it's a small, intimate group. So if you want to join us, make sure you do it right away. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now, here's the interview with Lillian. Lillian, how are you?
I'm well, Gene. How are you?
Fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation where we talk about great work leads to more work. But before we dive into it, tell us about your company, Tiny Wins.
Absolutely. Tiny Wins is, we like to call ourselves a feeling studio. We are in brand and marketing and product and design. And, we've struggled to understand like how to define ourselves, whether we're an agency or a consultancy, because we do a lot of those things as a discipline. But at the end of the day, we always start with how do you want to make people feel? And so we have settled on being a feeling studio right now.
Well, I see what you're trying to do there, but I want to go a little bit deeper into this. Like, what do you wish that your ideal clients understood? Because I know that there's some frustrations and things that marketing changes so fast and branding even changes fast in today's world. What do you wish these CEOs knew?
We work with a wide variety of C-suite executives. We work with founders. We work with the Fortune 100. And the most important thing that I like to always start with is the idea that, brand and marketing, though they're usually in the same discipline in an organization, they're two very separate things. That brand I believe that brand is this thing that makes people feel something, and that marketing is this thing that gets people to act upon that feeling. And so unless you are really honed into the feeling that you're trying to create for your customers or your prospects, marketing is a lot of guesswork. And especially in this day and age when there's so much, there's so many different platforms and so much content that we're being asked to push out constantly, having a very specific North Star in terms of the feeling that you're trying to connote is very important before you start jumping into ROI and KPIs.
Well, I love the concept of brand. So Lillian, we're going to dive in. You've made the ink list before, and we know that people and leadership are such an incredible, force inside of business growth. But what is it that really makes your company stand out and perform at the level it does?
We have this motto inside the company that is about great work, and that great work leads to more work. And early in the business, we've been around for about 7 or 8 years now. We certainly didn't have the budgets to do marketing. We barely had a website, and we just knew that if we did our best and kept the client first before ourselves, that work would speak for itself. And some obvious things have happened, right? Like reputationally, we stand out in the marketplace. We get a lot of repeat business. There's a lot of customer loyalty and trust. But there's a feeling of momentum that's really important with great work leading to more work.
We take it back to that feeling. Mm-hmm. If I asked you, what is the feeling that you want others to experience with your brand, what is it?
Well, you're talking to the person that's in charge of feelings. So I think there's some givens, right? That I think every company needs to have as their, as table stakes, right? Trust, authenticity, innovation. Those things to me are table stakes, and they have to be alive and well inside an organization for them to even be, to be able to survive in this climate. The feeling that we want is on top of those things is really about enthusiasm and excitement, and that there's a little bit of nurturing involved. And so we're going to bring always our best foot forward in terms of like putting our ego aside, and this not being about us, but this is about you, the client, really comes from like a very egoless, nurturing, caregiving aspect, along with the energetic vibe that comes along when you are winning and have the momentum. So it's a combination of those things.
How do you ensure that your employees have that? I know that there's certain things you probably do from a hiring standpoint. We can start there. But yeah, what I'm really concerned with, like when people get off track from this brand that you're creating for Tiny Wins, mm-hmm. How do you lead them back to the path?
It's a good question. I think that, it's a tough question to answer, Jane, because it depends how they get off the track, right? Number one, you have to make sure that you have built a very safe environment, safe for your employees, safe for your clients, safe for your leadership. And so if there's ever a feeling, and when I say safe, I mean safe to take risk, safe to be innovative, safe to share your feelings. And if that feeling of safety isn't there, then I need to pull them back in and figure out why.
Now, Lillian just said something about building a safe environment. Now, a lot of people think that they have this, but let me urge you to dig a little bit deeper. How safe is it? Can you make it a little bit safer? Now, you may be wondering why we're talking about safety. Well, for me, this came from a study done at Google, multi-year study on high-performing teams, and they discovered that the highest performing teams had one thing in common. They have a sense of psychological safety. Now, when you have psychological safety, people are willing to speak up without fear of judgment. They're willing to share those ideas that are a little bit odd. But they do this over and over and over. And once you have this kind of psychological safety inside of an organization, they're willing to share things, they're willing to grow and take criticism well, because it is a safe environment. And when you make them feel safe, they're actually going to execute and perform at a higher level. Back to Lillian. When you are leading people and they are off the path, what would you say your style of leadership is?
My style of leadership is not one of micromanagement. When we are hiring, we're hiring people that have an independent nature, but they also like to work in teams. And so the ability to kind of flip to each is really important. I think my leadership style is that of trust and safety. So giving them the autonomy to do their best work. And sometimes what I'll do, Jean, is I'll pretend I'm the client. So like somebody, is presenting to me before they're presenting the work to the client. And I will be pretty critical, quite frankly, and I have very high expectations on myself. And so those expectations are naturally passed off to my team. And so they know coming in, like, I don't know, my dad used to say it's a lot easier to loosen your belt than tighten it. So when people come into the team, it's really like they know that my standards are already very high and my expectations are there and that they need to meet them.
We've been talking about doing great work and that leads to more work.
Mm-hmm.
I get the concept behind this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're playing it out, like doing quality work is not always easy. Like marketing, sometimes it's hard to measure that. It's really hard to measure branding. How are you guys looking at the measurement of what you do as it drives people forward to do more good work?
Yeah. Especially in branding, Jean, it's really hard to get alignment around brand, right? And that is one way to measure it is can you get radical alignment from the client and their leadership team? And if we succeed there, we tend to succeed everywhere else. So meaning that when we're working on a brand strategy, getting everybody honed in on that one specific feeling that they want to have, which really creates their purpose and their meaning, then we can be successful in how we design for that, how we speak about it, how we show up in the world on social, how the website looks. And those to me, like, particularly in brand, when it's very difficult to measure, that's the biggest measurement of success internally for us, but also internally for the client.
We've been talking about your people, and I'm kind of curious of the rituals that you might have that keep people aligned and keep people moving forward. What is your favorite ritual across your company right now?
Well, I don't know if we have any uncommon rituals, but we certainly have the ones that, like every Monday we have a leadership call with the entire team. And we kind of set the tone for the week. I'm really good, and so is my business partner, by the way, is staying connected one-on-one with everybody in the team, even through this explosive growth that we've had. As we've gotten bigger, it's been harder and harder to do. And I'm trying to navigate that now, if I'm being honest, but that is a ritual, that personal connection that I would like to keep as we continue to grow. I just need to find ways to do it.
Well, it does get harder with these rituals as you go, from 50 to 100 employees, because what used to work doesn't work. You've probably seen different inflection points of growth already to get to 50. What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome as a culture over the last, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, we're going through it right now. There was a moment about 6 weeks or 2 months ago where we got on our, all team call on Monday on Zoom. And for the first time, there were names and faces I didn't know and didn't recognize. And that was an aha moment for me in terms of how am I going to handle this growth and how will I keep those connections? Definitely there's a point here where, I know that I'm going to need some new tools and resources and skills for myself to be able to maintain culture and grow it the way that we want to.
Now, Lillian's been talking about the biggest challenge in culture. I see some of the big inflection points happen at 10 employees, 20 employees, 50 employees, and 100 employees. Now, even beyond that, there are some inflection points. But if we just looked at those, at 10 employees, your communication's pretty seamless. People are pretty close to each other. Even if you're virtual, you could all get together and go to lunch together. But at 20, it makes it a little bit harder. And so you have to figure out the different communication cadence and changes as you go from 10 to 20 employees. And communication changes across each one of these inflection points, but it's different. You're going to make sure that when you go from 20 to 50, you start to feel like things aren't working that used to work. That's natural. And then when you go from 50 to 100, that transformation takes a lot of growth as well, because again, you're not meeting with everyone. You don't know everyone's name. You want to make sure that you create the kind of leadership that allows you to continue to grow through these inflection points. That's what I do for clients, make them aware of these inflection points, but also, make sure that they keep the momentum going within leadership as well as sales. Now back to Lillian. Now you put it out there, and I'm not trying to probe into the personal work that you're doing, but is there anything you can share with us about what you think leaders do to grow and evolve from where they are today?
For them personally, or
Yeah,
the
personally.
business? Well, I think there's certainly a lot of ways to do it, right? We all have mentors. There's books out there. There's definitely coaches that we can all lean into. I actually learn a lot from my business partner because we're very different from each other. One, I'm pretty risk averse and he's very risk taking, right? And so I lean into him in times where I feel a little lost. But in today's world with all the platforms and content, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to learn, even, organically.
When you think about your journey as a leader, you've probably made some mistakes before, Lillian. Is there one mistake that kind of stands out that you could share with us about kind of what you thought about leadership that has obviously a little bit different because of this growth that you've been through? What story comes to mind there?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking that's a past, present, future state, and I can definitely pinpoint something in the past, and I just can't help but wonder what mistake am I making right now, as we're growing. But earlier on, I would say that we're really eager, right? Very hungry to prove ourselves as a business. It's a competitive marketplace. We want to win. And we weren't perhaps as judicious about the clients we were working with. And I think I learned a really hard lesson, and it's this, that if you are in contracting phase with a potential client and they're very difficult to work with, then they're going to be very difficult to work with throughout the rest of the process.
Yeah.
That is something I had to learn the hard way. And then I tested it, a second time. And then the third time this is the third client now that I've seen the pattern. And especially when you want to say yes to everyone. We're in the service industry. We want to say yes to everyone for everything. There's a lot of generosity in what we do, but there also has to be give and take. And that contracting thing will actually tell you a lot about how they're going to act and behave.
I've sat on this side of the mic for years, Lillian, trying to pull out what the mistakes are with people. And this one doesn't come up that often, but it is something that has played, and I've experienced this as well. I think we all have, and it's hard to go through because you don't want to fire clients or you don't want to tell people no, but not everyone is the right fit for you. One of my favorite questions with working with marketing companies, and this goes back years because that used to be all I coached, which was, who would you work with if you only got paid on performance?
Who would I work with if I only got paid on performance? I think honestly, the best clients are the ones that know that they've come to you for your expertise and that you are the expert and they're here for that guidance and that service, that service, right? That we are the sages and we're trying to make them the hero of their own story. And so the clients that, comes down to trust and confidence and all those things. But when you start, and also when you start from that position, you tend to finish in that position. I know trust is something you have to earn and re-earn constantly, but it does help to start from there. And so I would say the clients that know they're walking into, and literally like knowing that, brand and marketing, it's a creative process. There is a leap of faith, right? There is a little bit of a leap of faith when you're engaging in an agency or a studio. And so when you kind of relinquish control a little bit and know that you're in the best hands, those are the clients we want.
Now, it doesn't help that there's a lot of people in your industry that aren't very good at what they say they're good at.
I know.
And
I
you have to
know.
pick up the pieces, and you've done this many times before. I remember sitting in front of a bunch of clients and I'm like, what percentage of your work as a marketing company comes from you having to repair something from another client? And it was 80%. And it's just an uphill battle. But when you have the right people and you have the right systems and you really are working with the right clients, that's what you're seeing this result now. So what does the future look like for you? If you're I know that we're always evolving, but what is the thing that you're focused on right now that you're willing to share with us on this open format?
Oh, wow. I think at the beginning I talked about momentum a little bit, and that momentum is a very powerful thing. It's not just the energy and the vibe it gives the business, but it's about the confidence that it gives you, and success breeds confidence, right? So now we have a little bit more of that, the determination and confidence to branch off into other areas and expand services. And that we have been doing since the get-go, but now we're getting bigger and bolder with it, right? And so there is opportunity for us to really embrace AI in terms of how we're going to scale. There's opportunity to grow a house of brands within Tiny Wins, and particularly in the areas of technology and product. There's some things in the works that I'd love to share with you when we're ready, but they're still a little bit in stealth mode. And continue to really to grow the services in a way that we can all do our best work, so that we continue to have the reputation and the accolades that we're having. We're just getting ourselves out for awards. We're winning really big AOR clients. We're still working with startups. And so some of these things will stay the same, but we're just getting bigger and bolder with it.
Lillian, thank you for being here to share your perspective, what it really means to do great work that leads to more work. I really enjoy talking to you about your team and the leadership style that you have.
Thank you for having me, Gene.
Wow, what a great interview. I love talking about this concept of great work leads to more work. When you as a team are perform at the highest levels, and you continue to innovate, you continue to break through challenges and solve things that other people aren't, then you will continue to get more work. Get a little tongue-tied there, but hopefully you get the idea. But what it really means is you've got to lead your team powerfully. You've got to have the right things in place. You've got to make sure that you are addressing the things that are getting out of alignment, and not delaying on that. And you do this consistently over time, and you lead by example. There's so many things. If you're wondering what is in the way of your own growth, in the way of your own culture, maybe you're hitting one of those inflection points as you grow, then make sure that you reach out to us, gene@genehammett.com. That's my email address. Love to hear from you. And we've got some programs specifically to help you. And it starts with a conversation. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.